an impact do you think the show made to the Christian community in this country?
Let me go first.
Go for it.
I think the show was God's perfect timing in our culture to highlight a family who what we would call, and probably you would call, were normal.
Right.
Very abnormal in the sense of the beards, the duck hunting and all that stuff, but very normal in the sense that that everybody is all been married to the same people, that we love each other, that we forgive each other at the end of the day, that we have fun.
Right.
Which is Christians can have fun. We
Amen.
laugh and we gig each other all the time and are constantly on one another, but it doesn't change the fact how we really feel about each other.
Right.
And so I think because of that, I think the culture needed to see that, because what you typically saw in any sort of, including reality, but any sort of Hollywood endeavor, was the Christian was always portrayed as the judgmental person.
Right.
The one who couldn't, deal or be tolerant with people and love people. Always the boob, the idiot, the whatever, and never really seen as someone who can just, basically function in culture and raise your family, but do it without all the bad stuff. Right. So I think that is what really resonated, is my opinion. A lot of fans have told us as we've traveled around the country that the prayer at the end was what locked them in. Like, they liked it and it was funny and they could tell there was something different about us. But when they saw that prayer, they saw that family around the table and doing that prayer, it was like, that's it. Either I wish my family was more like that, or that's what my family's been like for generations, and I'm so glad it's been celebrated. So I really think that was the impact. I think that's why people reacted so strongly to the show as they did. And to be honest with you, I don't know that the network ever saw that as a potential, which is kind of when it's funny when God does something under the radar, because I think they saw it as more of typically of what you see, I wouldn't say exploitative, but definitely a bunch of dumb people running around in Louisiana doing crazy stuff. That's kind of how they envisioned it.
Right.
I think they got surprised that it had such a deep following. Now, they appreciated it and made a lot of money, but I don't know that they didn't see the potential of what obviously became.
Even though your dad, as I recall, at the very beginning when they asked him to do it, picked up his Bible and said, if this comes with me, that he would do it, and they agreed.
He said that in the first meeting.
Absolutely.
He held the Bible up, he said, is this in? And the producers are there and they were like, Mr. Robertson, if that's a part of your life and that's who you are, then yes, that goes with it too. So we made it work because the Almighty was behind it. And by the way, that's what Dad said. He said, I don't think this will work. He told Willie this. He said, I don't think this will work, Willie. I don't think people will want to watch us. We're not even killing anything. Like, we're not hunting, because he only imagined people watching us hunt.
Right.
He said, why would they tune in? So he said, I don't think this will work. He said, but it will work if the Almighty wants it to happen.
Exactly.
And that's obviously what happened. Everything in the store that you see hanging on walls and stuff are things people sent us, It's amazing. I mean, they were so overwhelmed, by what it did for them. So it had a huge impact and still does. I mean, that's the beauty of it. We just were at an event recently and a guy was telling us when he introduced me, or I guess I was speaking, he was telling about how he had come in and his granddaughters had just discovered the show on Hulu or some older format, and they had never watched it before. Right. So they're laughing. They're saying, Grandpa, you got to come watch this show. This is the funniest thing we've ever seen, and you'll love it. They pray at the end of it. Well, he watched the show, so he had no idea that his grandkids had discovered it because they were in the same town.
Right.
So that's the beauty of this, is that it can even go generationally and be discovered later, that people can see it. And so I think when you have something deeper to offer, that's part of it, which is a great blessing.
When we celebrated Mia, and we celebrated, with all of our family together, and I mean, that was the first time that so many of our family had all been together and on TV, at one time.
All my
Because cousins and aunts and uncles, and it was such a fun time. But at the same time, we also got to celebrate Mia because it was just before she went in for a major surgery.
Right.
And we just got to be together as a family and say, Mia, we love you. We're here for you. We're going to stand behind you. And, God's going to take care of you. And that was such a, it was just a great time.
The one that touched me the most, even more than the one with Mom and Dad, was an episode where one of our sisters from our church, we gave her a home.
Yeah.
Her home had, I forgot what had happened, but it was in super bad shape.
Just rotting
And
down.
she's African American, lives in a little, small African American community. But we were able to work it out with Clayton Homes and some people that sponsored the show to give her a home, and she didn't know it. And her son had been Willie's best friend growing up and was in our church and has worked for us for many years. And so to get to do that, it was just so neat, and see her reaction when she drove up. And then when we did the prayer inside that home, Dad just broke down. I mean, if you ever go back and watch that episode,
I definitely will.
He loses it, and of course we're all just, sobbing. But for us to have the opportunity to do this, which I'm getting teared up now talking about it, but it was so moving.
Yeah.
And to me, our culture is so divided, and the evil one has done such a, really good job for him, bad job for us, at finding all these different lines to divide us. And race, of course, is one of those, and so many other ways. And to me, our show spoke into that and said, Jesus Christ combines us and unites us. And I know that's what your organization is all about.
Right.
And it's about uniting people together
Exactly.
instead of dividing. And so that episode to me spoke to that as well as anything we did.
Right.
And so you're super proud of those moments.
Sure.
When you get to show America, like, hey, don't be racist. And don't buy into the evil one's lie that, because we're different, gender, different, whatever, that therefore we've got to hold these biases against people. So out of many moments, that's probably that's definitely one I cried on air. Whenever we speak, we show a couple of pictures. One is of our family the last night we filmed Duck Dynasty. And it's very stately, and we're in Willie's new house, and we had been filming the clip show, they call it, which was kind of the finale where they show a lot of clips, and we're commenting on the clips, and it was a lot of fun. But at the end of that, somebody from the crew just snapped this shot of all of us there, and the room is balanced, and there's Mom and Dad, and it just looks like this great family portrait.
Right,
and,
right.
You got 3 generations of faith represented, and you're having just as much commitment to Christ out of the last generation, the young ones, as you did out of Mom and Dad, which is such a blessing. So we love showing that picture to audiences, and they're like, oh man, that's the family I love. That's the Duck Dynasty family. That's the Robertson family. But then I like to show the picture from 1972 when it's just Mom and Dad, him with no beard, me at, I was about 7 years old, and Jace, who was about 5 or 4, and then Mom's pregnant with Willie. And in that picture, we were a mess. In that picture, they were about to split up, which happened a little bit later. Our whole world fell apart. They were running a bar at the time. Dad was on the Arkansas-Louisiana line. And so when I show that picture to that audience, and everybody's just kind of, whoa, I've never seen that picture of this family. But I always tell them that you go back in time 42 years in our case between those 2 pictures, and you see a family who without Christ couldn't imagine anything better or more than this moment. Can we get through one more day, one more week? And so I know in an audience there's somebody out there going through that same thing. They're thinking, can we stay together? Am I going to be able to forgive her for the, whatever? And so I love to show those 2 pictures because it shows you what God can do.
So many times we're divided by different religions, and well, I go to this church, well, I go to this church, and things like that, and well, I agree with this, but I don't agree with that. And so many times as Christians we're divided, and I think that's how the enemy has come in and set up camp.
Absolutely.
Is because we're so divided, we're fighting against one another instead of fighting together. We have to come together as Christians, tell our story. We have to tell people what God has done, will do, and is doing. It's going to be an amazing journey, even in what you're doing here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.